Today we're going to be making the Could I Be Any Clearer stadium bag. So this bag is made using clear vinyl and jelly. Jelly is like a translucent, solid looking vinyl. Has kind of a different texture to it. Brittany has this available at the Emporium, which I will tag everything down below. Her retail is coming out next week if you're watching this like on the day that the pattern drops. And then I have clear TPU vinyl. This has holographic glitter, and then scissors. This is from Mormino. And I have my tag, which is from Heartwood and Hide. And then I have zippers and zipper pulls from Mormino. My hardware is all from Mormino. So let's go ahead and just get started. So the very first step, we're going to add the zipper tabs to the shorter zipper that's for the front. So I will probably use a somewhat decent amount of double-sided tape on this bag, but at the same time you want to keep in mind that it's kind of visible on the vinyl. So you want to use it sparingly in areas that will be noticeable if there's like a giant piece of tape on the back of it. And this bag will have optional binding. You don't have to, since it's all vinyl. The seams inside can just be left raw if you choose. But I'm using the jelly vinyl for the binding as well. So that's fun. And we'll see how that goes because I haven't actually done it before. This double-sided tape, my 1/8 inch double-sided tape is from Wizardry. And then I also have half inch, I think it's half inch double-sided tape that is from Weft and Warp Co. And I'll probably use some of that at some point on this. You want to fold the zipper tab over the end of the zipper so it's folded in half. Use a clip if you need to hold it in place. Yeah. This will also be a pretty quick sew compared to other bags. Quicker to cut also because there's no like lining, it's all just vinyl. So I'm just trying to line that up so that it's about at the middle of the tab. Alright, and then I'm going to sew this on using an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance from the raw edge of the tab. The thread I'm using today is Fairy Floss from Wizardry. Alright, now we're going to place the zipper right side down on top of the front pocket, and my zipper is closing to the left. Alright, we're going to place the zipper right side down, the zipper closing toward the left, and centered from left to right on the front pocket. And I'm just going to use some clips to hold that in place, and then we're going to sew it on using a 3/8 inch seam allowance. I have a narrow zipper foot on my sewing machine that is from Mormino. And if she does not currently have them, I believe she said she was getting more. And it's definitely worth it if you have the Juki 1181N, because I can sew my zippers and everything on really without swapping out my foot now. It's not exactly 3/8, but it's close. Alright, and then we're going to flip the zipper up and press the seam allowance down toward the pocket. So it's folded back like that, and then we're going to top stitch this using a 1/8 inch seam allowance. And I'm top stitching all the way across the pocket, and you'll want to back stitch a couple stitches at the start and stop, since this is raw edged. Alright, so we have that. Next we're going to take a main panel, and I'm going to measure 6.5 inches up from the bottom, and I'm going to use a piece of double-sided tape, not the thick one, to hold this in place. So I'm just going to, sorry if you were seeing my head there, I'm just going to place the tape directly along the very top of this zipper. Okay, I'm going to kind of mark the middle by folding this in half. I'm not really going to mark it, I'm just going to kind of press it so you can see where it's at. And then we'll need to measure up from the bottom 6.5 inches. And also centered. So this ruler is also from Mormino. If you're new here, I get everything from Mormino. So I'm just kind of finger pressing that so I can find the center easier. It's not very pressed, I guess. And I want to measure up 6.5 inches. From the bottom center. So, where's my other ruler? Alright, I'm just going to use this ruler to kind of make sure that this is even on both sides, so I know it's centered. Yeah, I think that looks good. Alright, so I'm going to remove the paper backing from the tape. And while my ruler is still in place, because I don't want to actually mark this out, because I don't want any marks on my clear vinyl. I'm just going to match the center up with the center mark. Make sure that that's nice and straight, and stick it in place. And just make sure that it's 1/8 inch tape, so it's really close to the edge of the zipper, so it's not going to be exposed on the front. And I'm just going to check one more time that this looks evenly centered. And it seems to. Okay. So now we are going to sew this in place, first using a 3/8 inch seam allowance along the zipper. And we're going to end up sewing a box here. And we're sewing all the way down onto the zipper tab. Also, I'm using a longer stitch length, so my stitch length is on 5 because you don't want to over perforate the vinyl. Alright, so I just stitched like one little tiny stitch and then go down and do 1/8 of an inch seam allowance from the bottom of the zipper. My thread snips are also from Warmino. Alright, and this box that you just sewed here will be exposed on the inside of your bag. Not that that matters, but just throwing it out there. Alright, so when you fold this pocket down, you'll be folding the zipper in half like this, so that the teeth face the top of the bag. I would recommend, again, using some tape here, probably not a ton of it, but small amounts to hold it in place. And I find at least that if you use 1/8 inch tape, it's small enough that it's not super visible. I don't know if it's the tape or the jelly. I think it's the texture of the jelly that the tape just really doesn't want to stick all that great. It sticks really well to the TPU though, so be careful when you fold this down. Since I have these stripes on my bag, I can kind of line the jelly up with a stripe, and then I'll see how it looks. going to replace that strip, I think. I don't want it to be wadded up. And I think honestly that I want that to be just a touch further down, so. That looks perfect. Alright, and I think I can get away without replacing the tape on the other side. I'm going to make sure that the bottom of my pocket is straight. And it is about 1 3/4 of an inch up from the bottom. Okay, we're going to sew the pocket on using a 1/8 inch seam allowance. Make sure that you back stitch at both of the top corners. And you could also use just clear vinyl for this bag if you want it to be all see-through. Take my corners nice and slow so that my stitches are consistent. Alright, so the front of the bag is done. It's already so cute. Before I make the gusset, I want to sew my patch on the front center. Not a patch, my tag. I know that people will say that some people say that they don't like the tags visible on the front of the bag, but I think it looks really cool. And if you're making it, I think you should put your tag wherever you want it. Alright, so I'm going to just mark these 4 little dots. I got, this ruler is actually from the Heartwood and Hide also. And they have different, that did not mark anything. They have different rulers based on what size tags you get. So make sure that you get the correct ruler size to go with your tag size. And then I'll use a piece of tape on the back of this. And the 1/2 inch tape, again, I get from Weft and Warp Co. My tags are from the Heartwood and Hide. That tape sticks really well. Alright, so now I'm just going to sew this on using an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, and I like to make my stitch length just a little bit shorter. I have yet to find like the perfect stitch length for this so that it like uses an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. If anybody knows what that is, you can tell me. So I'm just going to start here. I don't normally back stitch on my tags, but I think I'm going to because I don't want a knot inside. Four is not my perfect stitch length for this. Alright, so now my front's done. Let's go on to the gusset. You will have a back gusset top and a front gusset top. So the back gusset top is the wider piece. The front gusset top is this narrow piece. So the first thing that we want to do, you want your zipper to be closing toward the left, and you want your back gusset top right side up and your zipper right side down, and line it up with this bottom edge. We're just going to clip that together. And I honestly might switch out to my zipper foot for this, just so that I can get nice and close and actually maintain that 3/8 inch seam allowance. I don't wanna. Alright, we're just gonna call it good enough. I don't want to switch out. So we are going to sew this using a 3/8 inch seam allowance. I feel like with the zipper foot I get really close, but just not quite, but it'll be okay. move the zipper out of the way as needed. I would also like to add that I did singe the ends of my zipper tape with a lighter so that it doesn't fray, because this will be raw edged inside of the bag. Alright, now we're going to press the back gusset top away from the zipper, and we're going to top stitch using a 1/8 inch seam allowance. Alright, and then we'll go ahead and repeat this to attach the front gusset top. So I'm just clipping it right side against the right side of the zipper. I don't think there's really a wrong side and a right side of the jelly, but it tends to want to curl a certain way, and I guess the way that it curls toward, I consider the back, but I don't really know that there's a difference. So if anybody knows that, also go ahead and chime in the comments. Does jelly have a wrong side and right side? Alright, and then we're going to sew that in place, also using a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Alright, we'll go ahead now and top stitch through this front gusset top using an 1/8 inch seam allowance. If you haven't sewn with jelly vinyl yet, I think it's totally domestic machine friendly. I'd recommend a Teflon foot or a walking foot, but probably a Teflon foot. Alright, we're going to take the crossbody or strap connectors, which are 2-inch long pieces of webbing, and fold them in half and slide a D-ring on, and then we'll go ahead and Baste the ends of the webbing together using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. The webbing, I don't know where I got it from. I might have gotten this from Wizardry as well. Whoever sells webbing in a bag, 3 yards was $10 at the time when I bought it, which I've also had it for a while, so I'm honestly not sure where I got it. But there's seatbelt webbing available at a lot of places now. And my lighter. So I would also like to add that I singe the ends of the vinyl as well. So if you're using any vinyl that is, or if you're using any nylon webbing or polyester webbing, you want to singe the ends of it because it will unravel. Now we're going to find the center of the short ends on the gussets, and I'm just going to put a tiny little snip there. This will be using a 3/8 inch seam allowance, so don't make your snip too big. But I'm just folding it in half and then putting the smallest little snip in. Then I want to center the webbing, which is aligned right with the side of the zipper when it's centered. And then we want to baste that in place using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So the zipper tab is sewn to the back gusset top, just directly alongside the zipper. Keep that to baste the other strap connector in place. Alright, now we're going to make this handle. Take the 11-inch piece of webbing, place 2 rectangle rings on it, and then we're going to bring both ends of the webbing to meet in the center. I'll use a piece of double-sided tape to hold that in place. Should have probably measured out where the center was at first, but I think as long as it's close, it does not have to be perfect. It's going to be kind of like that. Alright, and then we have this piece of jelly vinyl that will be wrapped around this. So I'm going to use some tape for this. so I'm just going to place the tape down the back side of the webbing, kind of centered, so that it won't stick out of where the jelly is. And then I'm going to fold one side of the jelly onto that tape, and then the other side of the jelly should fold around the webbing so that it comes almost all the way back to the other side. And here you can use another piece of tape, or you could use sewing clips. I think I'll use tape because I like it. And this tape from Weft and Warp Co. seems to be sticking to the jelly pretty well, so I would suggest trying this kind. Oh yeah, definitely. Alright, so this is the bottom of the handle, so you won't really see this, but do you see what I mean by you can see the tape through it? I don't know how well that shows up on camera, but nobody's going to see it on the bottom of the handle, but if you want to put it on the front of your bag or something, it will show. Alright, and then I'm just going to sew around this using a 1/8 inch seam allowance. So I lost my scissors. This might be my favorite little handle I've ever made. I need more little handles like this. Okay, now for this webbing, I'm going to measure and make a mark on the back. And I'm going to measure 1 inch from one end on each piece of handle connector webbing. These measure 3 inches long. So, and I'm going to use tape, all the tape. Weft and Warp Co. Alright. So I just placed that right over that mark. So first I'm going to fold one short end that's closest to the mark back to that line, and I'll just stick it down to the tape. And then the other side will slip. You want to make sure that the bottom side is the side where the seam is. The top side is finished. And so you want to make sure that this seam is also on the bottom side. Alright, so now we have this. Now we are going to, on the back side, we want to measure 3.5 inches from the center. So I need to find the center along the back gusset top. I'm just going to place a little tiny snip there. And then I'm going to do the same just to go ahead and mark the front center right now also. Okay, so there's my back center. So I want to measure 3.5 inches from the back center and 1.5 inches in. So 3.5 inches is to the end of this, and that's 1.5 inches in. So I'm going to place some tape on the back of the connectors. I want to place it so that it's going to only be on the part that will be sewn down. Alright, then I'm going to remove the paper. Alright, I'm going to place one of these right here, 3.5 inches, and 1.5 inches from the raw edge. A little bit closer here. Alright, so it's 1.5 inches to the side of the webbing there. And then, so 1, 2, 3. Alright, and then the other one will also be 3.5 inches. Okay. And 1.5 inches. Alright, so it should be like this. Alright, so I'm going to sew one side in place using a one. I have one other tip before we do that. So for a little bit of extra stability, because the jelly is thin, so that the handle won't rip through. Alright, so I just have a couple scraps of jelly here. I'm going to place a little bit of tape right over the back of that webbing. Alright, and I'm going to just stick this on and we'll trim it off later, the excess. I mean, you could always use a smaller piece in the first place, but and this is not required, but I think it will just help this to be a little more secure. Alright, so now we're going to sew this in place using a 1/8 inch seam allowance. And just get as close as you can to the hardware. I'm just sewing a box. And I guess my main concern is just to not over perforate the jelly. So I'm always conscious of like how much back stitching I'm doing. Try to keep my back stitching in the same holes as the sewing. Doesn't always happen that way. Alright, we'll repeat that on the other side. Now we'll go ahead and from the wrong side, we can just trim the excess vinyl or the excess jelly away from that point where it's just securing the handle. And this will be visible, but as long as it's the same jelly, it really doesn't look bad. So, and you can just trim those into nice, neat little squares. I just find it easier to trim it down than to try to sew it the correct length in the first place. Or, I'm sorry, to attach it like a tiny little square and have it be in the exact right place. Alright. That is cute. Alright, so we're going to attach the bottom, the gusset bottom. So place it right sides together with the assembled gusset top and match up a short edge of the gusset bottom to a short edge of the gusset top. And we're going to sew that together using a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Make sure that your D-ring is pulled away from the edge. .3/8 inch. So different than my usual. Alright, now we'll fold the gussets away from each other. The seam allowance is pressed toward the bottom panel, or I'm sorry, the gusset bottom. And we're going to top stitch using a 1/8 inch seam allowance and then add one more line of top stitching using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And the extra line of top stitching just helps to make it a little more secure, a little more stabilized, I guess, for a non-stabilized bag. And then we'll repeat that on the other side of the gusset. Alright, so again with a 3/8 inch seam allowance, sew this together. Alright, and then we'll top stitch this in the same method, so a 1/8 inch seam allowance, and then again another line using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Alright, so we are almost done already. So now we're going to, we have the centers marked along the front and back of the top gussets, and then we'll take the gusset bottom, fold it in half so that the seams match up, and that is how we'll find the center. And I'm just going to again put like a tiny little snip there. This will also be a 3/8 inch seam allowance ultimately, so just don't make your snip larger than that. Alright, and then we're going to start with the front main panel, and we want to place the front zipper gusset top thingy. Oh, hold on. First, we're going to take our pattern piece and we want to mark the side placement and the centers. So this would have been easier before sewing the pocket on, I think. So maybe I'll move that direction to the beginning. So I'm just going to place a little snip at the centers and then the side placement mark, which will line up with the seam on the gusset. I want to make sure I have the center correct on the top here. I think I marked it wrong. Yes, I did. So the vinyl really kind of sticks to itself when it's wrong sides together, which is helpful to an extent. Alright, and then we'll repeat that to mark the centers on the back as well. which should be easier since it's flat. Alright, so I think I'll move the marking of the centers up in the pattern. Alright, so let's go ahead and attach the front main panel to the gusset. So I like to put my main panel right side down, and first, now I don't know which one of those marks was the center since the first mark was not centered. Okay, so that one. So first I'm going to mark or match up the center top. I'm placing the main panel right sides together with the jelly. This is a little bit slippery, and I'm just going to place a couple clips there. And then along the bottom as well. Alright, and then that side mark should match up with the seam in the gusset. Which should also line up. Yeah, I think that my marks are wrong. The seam should line up with the top of the pocket. Like pretty evenly, so I'm going to use that as my placement mark. And then probably correct that on the pattern, so I think I'm off by 1/4 of an inch or so. That's much better. Ooh. Okay, so that fits very nicely. So line your seam up with the top of the pocket. My neck hurts really bad and I have a horrible headache right now. We are so close to being done though, so we're gonna finish this. Alright, and you'll have some like kind of wrinkles around the curves, but where you won't sew over them. But if it seems a little too wrinkly, you might want to try to ease them out. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and start sewing. I'm going to use right now a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Which is kind of more of a basting stitch. Alright, you want to be careful not to sew over any bumps in the vinyl as you kind of ease around the curves. You could also use regular binding on this if you want to. A lot of people use like a waterproof canvas binding, or I have from Mormino, she has a binding that's like a grosgrain ribbon, so it doesn't fray. This is awesome. So if you want to use something like that rather than the jelly strips, that's totally fine too. Or you could just skip the binding altogether because it's really not necessary. Just adds a little finishing touch and a little more shape, I guess, to the bag, or I don't know what to call it. It makes it a little more sturdy. Structured. That's the word I want. The best recommendation for this is to sew nice and slow. So this glitter vinyl that I'm using, I bought when I went to Illinois, and I actually got to visit the Mormino headquarters for, what was I there for? What did they call it? So Whatever Weekends. So I went to So Whatever Weekends, which was hosted by Lauren and, shoot. Alright, I'm sorry. It was hosted by Lauren and Kayla, who runs the So Magical Expo. They were amazing hosts. Everything was like really well thought out. Kayla is really, really good at like making sure that everything happens like it should. She just really took charge. Like, it was impressive enough that I had to say like, wow, you are really good at this. But so the whole thing was really fun. It was kind of, a lot of people were sewing apothecary handbags. It's an apothecary tote, huh? A lot of people were sewing apothecaries, but it was like unofficial, so you didn't have to sew an apothecary. You could sew whatever you wanted to. Lauren brought her like fleet of industrial machines to the hotel, and they were set up in the conference room, and we just kind of hung out and sewed all day. We had lunch, we had breakfast. The hotel that they had it at had a free continental breakfast, so breakfast was included with that. It was just a really awesome time, so I definitely hope I get the chance to go to more of the like Sew Whatever weekends or Sew Magical events, because it was just a really good time. I got to meet a lot of awesome people. So, you know, I've talked to Lauren, and then there's Brittany from the Emporium, and I've kind of talked to them online for a long time. Like, we know each other, but we didn't know each other, and I actually rode there with Brittany and Tiffany, her friend, and it was just a really awesome time. So, anyway, that's where I got my this clear glitter vinyl, is because we got to actually go to Mormino headquarters and shop. So that was really cool. And now it's kind of neat to see Lauren on her video talking about the new releases that are coming out. And I see her standing there, and now I can picture what it actually looks like from inside the store since I've been there. So that's cool. All right. So I think I might actually sew on, I'm going to check and make sure this looks okay from the outside. Although if it doesn't, being that it's all vinyl, there's not a whole lot you can do about it. See, so you absolutely don't have to do the binding. It's a nice little feature, but it's not necessary. Oh my gosh, that's adorable. So cute. And you might want to, you can put a couple little snips in the vinyl first, which might help it to lay better when it's turned. So just kind of around some of the curved areas. I'm just going to put some snips into the seam allowance there, and I think it might just help the vinyl to lay nicer when it's turned right side out. So have I mentioned before that I hate binding? I don't enjoy it. I really like the way a bag looks when it's finished with binding, but I don't like doing it. But we're gonna do it, and I think it's not gonna be that hard, because I think that the jelly is just gonna make it a lot easier. And I think that the Mormino binding would also be pretty easy. So I'm going to do something that I hope is not a dumb idea, but I heard Lauren say she uses, it's wider than this, but she uses a 3/4 inch double-sided tape, I think, from Weft & Warp Co. on her binding. So we're gonna try that and see what happens. I don't have 3/4 inch. I don't think I do. Let me look. No. I have 1/8 inch from Weft and Warp, and I have 1/2 inch. I think when I ordered that they were out of some of the other sizes, maybe. I don't know. But either way, we're going to try this. So I'm just going to put a piece of tape all the way down the center of one of my binding strips. And you guys are seeing it here for the first time because I've never done this before. So if it's a complete failure, then actually I will edit it out and you'll never know. And I will take out the part in the pattern where it says you could use double-sided tape. So let's go ahead and start peeling this off. Let's see. I'm just going to kind of start toward the center of the bottom and try to evenly fold this over the seam. I don't think this will be too bad. I'm going to put some clips on it too, just to make sure it stays put. I have used like really thin vinyl before for binding and I liked it. So, I mean, as much as I can like binding. So I don't think that this will be bad. I guess the trick is just making sure that it's folded over evenly. And if there are parts that we need to go back and fix, we can do that. I'm making this harder than it needs to be. I think it could be beneficial to draw a line down the center, but it's just like one more step, so I don't know if I want to suggest that or not. I don't really feel like I want extra steps. And drawing a line down the center of a long 1 inch wide piece of jelly doesn't really sound too super fun. All right, so I'm definitely going to pick up some of the 3/4 inch double-sided tape from Weft and Warp Co. because this tape on the binding might be a game changer for me. Because I struggle with binding like you wouldn't believe, and I feel like this is going to just be so much easier. Maybe I should wait until I sew it first, but... And I think that Lauren Mormino also carries the Weft and Warp Co. 3/4 inch tape for binding. Or I think that's what she calls it in her store, or something. I don't know. Maybe I should have bought some while I was there. Alright, and then we're just overlapping by about an inch or so at the bottom. You can trim it back a little bit if you want to. And then we're just going to start sewing. And we want to use a 3/8 inch seam allowance. So we just want to make sure that the binding is even on both sides so that it's getting caught in the stitch. So anywhere where it seems like it's not going to get caught, you might want to just adjust it a little bit. So right off the bat, the very first spot I did, which is where it would be helpful to have the center of the binding marked, but ugh. And that's also why we're using a 3/8 inch seam allowance, because like 1/2 would be the full size. So really just make sure, if you can't go all the way to 3/8, just make sure that you're catching both sides of the binding in your stitching. I need something. I don't know where my stiletto's at. I just don't want to get my finger in there. The stiletto honestly might not be the best thing to use on this jelly vinyl because I think it would just poke a hole in it. that doesn't look so bad. I actually caught 95% of the binding on both sides. I'm going to throw another line of stitching here along the bottom just because I noticed a spot that I didn't catch. So hopefully that caught it. Yeah, that's fine. And that's why I don't really like binding. So see, I missed this spot too. So I'm just going to sew another line in here. I don't think anybody will ever see that, right? I mean, I don't sell my bags, so I don't think it matters. I know it sounds like my sewing machine's kind of struggling, but it really is fine. And this absolutely jelly vinyl is domestic friendly, so in my opinion. Alright, so let's see how this looks when you press it out. This actually reminds me of like binding inside of a store-bought like school backpack or something. Huh. I think that the binding might actually help the curves shoe be kind of smooth if you just press it toward the gusset. Well, that looks pretty nice. I'm quite pleased with that. Also, Amber McLean used a second layer of clear on the inside of her bottom. The inside of the gusset bottom, just I think for added stability. A little bit of like a base in the bottom, so you may want to try something like that. This is turning out pretty cool. Okay. So I'm just going to unzip that zipper all the way because we want to make sure that we can turn this right side out when we're done. And we're just going to repeat this whole process. And I still think, considering that I'm like super slow, we're at about an hour and a half right now. It will be a little bit less with edits of some of the stupid, like me getting up and walking away. I edit out that kind of stuff. That's not bad. Not getting up and walking away because I was frustrated, but like looking out the window because I hear sounds. And I'm nosy, I guess. Alright, and if any of you know Amber McLean, who is the crafty reporter, she's pretty popular, I think. Or her bags are amazing, but so she tested this already yesterday. And wow. Her bag is amazing. Everything she sews is amazing. But she, like, the way that she takes pictures of her clear bags, she puts lights inside of them, and her pictures are just awesome. She's just awesome. So many cool friends. Alright, I'm going to adjust this a little bit because I think I have it. I need a little more of the main panel down in the bottom corners. I'm ready to go to bed. This is really hurting my neck. I think maybe I need to like lower my sewing machine a little bit. I feel like it's a little bit too high for my chair. So like as I sew and I'm having my arms up so high, my neck starts to kind of burn almost. It's really not very comfortable. And my chair is up as high as it goes, so. I guess I could need a better chair, or I need to lower my sewing machine, which, yes, I think it definitely can go lower. Maybe I'll do that. So I think currently my side marks that I made need to be moved up 1/4 of an inch. I'll take note of that. Oh, you know who else I met? Kira Branscombe. She's awesome. I had an awesome time hanging out with her. Lauren's friend and employee, Josie, she was awesome. Everybody was just so nice. Like, there was not one person that I thought was rude, or I don't know, everybody was just so nice, and we had such a good time. Tammy, who also works for Lauren, she's just the sweetest. So I honestly can't wait to go back for something else. And if any of you watch this and I'm talking about you, I'm sorry. At least I said nice things, right? Okay. So we're going to sew this on using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. This side will be a little more difficult to sew on since we already have the other side attached. Hopefully my bobbin holds strong and I don't need to replace it at all. I probably just jinxed myself by saying that. The hardest part is probably holding this together as you sew around the curves, because the jelly is slippery against the clear. Oops, and my clips are popping off. Oh my. I guess you could try the staple method here, as long as you were very careful to keep it right in the seam allowance, and then you aren't cutting this off, you're not trimming the seam allowance down, so you would have to make sure that you could actually remove the staples. But it wouldn't be a big deal if you had holes in the seam allowance portion. Or I don't think it would be. almost forgot one of the most important people, Alex from Sublime Miscellany. That was amazing. They're one of my testers and just an awesome person. And so that was amazing to meet them. Now I should have not mentioned to anybody, because what if I forget somebody? It's not purposeful. Fran, I met her. Curves are actually sewing together pretty easily, considering the slipperiness. Alright, that might be a bad idea, but I'm going to try to skip the clips and just sew this. So I always feel like I use too many clips, and one year, I said dumb, like, I don't know. I don't want to say my New Year's resolution, because I don't really make New Year's resolutions, but it was kind of that I was going to use less sewing clips and not clip when I didn't need to, and you know what, that's a lie. I can't help myself. I overclip everything. Check to make sure there's nothing in here that I need to fix. Oh, if you watch Lauren Mormino videos, she's kind of doing a hack to make this into a backpack. And I think using the regular handle on top, you just kind of run the backpack strap through the handle on top. So make sure to check that video out. And then Brittany from the Emporium, she made one of these that's really cool, with her Pride kitties, which is her own custom fabric that you can't actually buy, but she sells bags made out of it. And then who else? One of my testers is supposed to be making a solid clear bag, so like not a printed vinyl, but just straight clear. So that would be perfect for a stadium bag, where I don't know if, you know, like you might not want to have like a jelly gusset if you're actually going to take it to a stadium, because I think it has to be like clear. So that will be cool to see in just absolute clear. Oh, there's also like colored clear vinyl. I know that Hungry Hippie has clear colored clear vinyl, and she definitely used to at least have iridescent clear vinyl, and I don't know if she still has that. I used some a few years back on a bag that I made, and it's really cool. What else? If you're looking for the different printed clear vinyls, then I would recommend checking out Mormino, Fabric Therapy. You know, I'm not going to list everybody because I don't know. Those are the main places where I've bought them, so. Those actually might be the only 2 places where I bought them. Royal Pixie Custom Fabric has some clear. I think Backstitch has clear. So like a lot of the smaller, I forgot that I was going to snip into the corners. A lot of the small business custom fabric shops have clear and the jelly. So I just think it's awesome that something is so popular that is available from all these small businesses. So it's like we're all supporting our friends, and then also in turn you're getting amazing product that has the best customer service, and like you're actually supporting a person, not a corporation. Like you will interact with that person on Facebook that's running that business and who you're supporting by buying that product, and I just think that's really awesome. So one of my favorite things is I buy like almost all of my supplies now, almost all of my fabrics from the different small businesses that I found through Facebook. Hold on. It's a little bit tricky wrapping this around the curve, or it's tricky for me. Okay, that's better. I didn't have the binding part centered over the side, so almost done. This is like the last part really to sew, and then sew, whatever. And then we're going to make the crossbody strap, and then we're like officially finished, so. Ooh, this would be really cute to make like a tiny one. Even, you could skip the front pocket. Probably honestly skip the top handle, or if you had maybe like some 1/2-inch webbing. Oh, that could be cute. Who sells 1/2-inch webbing? Maybe New Moxie? I might go on the hunt for 1/2-inch wide webbing after this because I want to make a reduced one. How cute would that be, just to be tiny? Be adorable. I would probably skip the binding altogether on that. If it's so tiny, it won't need the extra structure. Maybe print at like, I don't know, 70%. If you figure if you print at like 50%, it would be half of this size, which would be very small. So we'll see if I actually do it or not. My sewing time has been very limited lately. Summertime, and my son plays baseball, so we are busy with that a lot. And I still work full time at like a, I don't want to say a real job. This is also a real job. Corporate job, we'll call it that. All right, let's go ahead and stitch this on. Where are we looking at? Almost 2 hours now, but keep in mind that I'm slow. Nobody's as slow as me. Maybe somebody is, but I'm slow. All right, and then this part we will sew on using a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Again, we're just going to check. Oh, did I just ran out of bobbin thread. No, I didn't. No, I didn't. All right, check and see where you might have missed catching parts of the binding, which I did in a couple spots. And I'm literally just gonna go back in and sew over them. Like, you really don't see it because it's tucked up in the corners, in the edges of the bag. So if you need to fix your binding, not a big deal. Nobody is ever gonna know. And if they are looking at your bag that close, they need to stop. Alright, so I only have like the 2 spots, I think. And then I don't know why my seam allowance or my bobbin thread got a little loopy right there, so I'm going to sew back over that to secure that part. That didn't happen that time, so I don't know why it did that. All right, and then just stitch over this part real quick. I might honestly use this as like a toiletry bag. If you don't attach the crossbody strap. I mean, it's too big for like an approved bag on a airplane or anything, but. All right, now is the final moment. We'll see how this looks. If you have a stiffer vinyl, you can use a blow dryer to heat it up. This TPU vinyl does not crease or wrinkle. It's really soft. It's quite nice. So I would definitely, when buying clear vinyl, I suggest looking for TPU because the quality is just amazing. And it's just nicer than the other clear vinyls I've used. So, and you just want to really work all of your seams to get them turned out nice and smoothly. If you need to, you can kind of roll them back on themselves and then use some clips to hold it and give it the proper shape. I cannot get over how cute this is. Oh, this could be like a sewing project bag even with the scissor vinyl. I do think that the binding inside helps it hold its shape properly, but it's optional. And especially like if you size down, I would skip it. If you made a reduced size one, which I really want to try. Okay. How cute is that? Oh my goodness. It's adorable. So I'll probably work on getting my seams pulled out a little bit more. Shouldn't have done that, I just made it worse. And that's something else that you could use a blow dryer to heat it up and then roll it out nicely. And then if it cools down while it's in the shape you want, then it will hold that shape. So yeah, that part is not messed up. I just did that. Okay. Let's make the crossbody strap real quick and then we are done. Oh, so it's only about 2 hours total. I think I will get the blow dryer out and just kind of heat this up and roll the seams. Alright, so crossbody strap. So we have 2 swivel clips, also from moremeknow.com. And the strap slider is from Moremeknow. Okay, so we're going to put the webbing through the strap slider over the center bar and flat down on itself like this. We're just going to sew this. I think I have, yeah, stitch a box. So just kind of get as close as you can to the hardware. Alright, and then we're going to, with that side of the webbing facing up where this is folded over, we're going to bring the other end of the webbing through a strap slider so that it's this direction. We're going to feed the webbing back up over the strap slider through the bottom of it over the center bar. Make sure that your strap adjusts and make sure that everything is arranged properly. And then on the other end, get these clips out of my way. Alright, on the other end, we're going to place this strap slider, or this swivel clip, and fold the webbing underneath. So make sure that this is facing up, that this is facing to the back. And then we'll just sew a box in this end, and we are done. You could also use a rivet here if you wanted to. All right, and we are finished. Let me see something. Okay, so I think where this wasn't unfolding back quite that nice, I'm going to go in here and very carefully trim off a little bit of the extra jelly from the binding. Just trim it back from that seam, and I think that will help my corners to lay more nicely. So just like that. Let's see. Oh yeah. Okay, so if you're having any issue with anything kind of laying as flat as you would like it to, kind of just go in and very carefully trim off a little bit of that binding in the corners. So just like that. Perfect. I might trim a little bit off on this corner as well. Alright, and I will add that, I think, to the directions also. Alright, so just make sure that the binding is all nice and smoothed out, and you're good to go. And we're done. That was pretty quick, I think, for me. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you will share your finished bags in my Facebook group, because I would love to see them. And also on Instagram, everything is tagged below in the description, but you can find me on Instagram and Facebook. And I would love to see your finished bags. Thanks for watching.